Well, good morning, my friend. It's Wednesday morning and a beautiful day it is outside here in Oklahoma City. Going to be a little bit warmer today. Welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. Good to have you along with me this morning. And I'm getting started just a little bit later on the podcast. I arrived to my office this morning, walking inside, and a lady had her bike and came up and said, "Hey, I need a little bit of help," and was able to share the gospel and lead her to Christ. It's exciting to be able to be used of God to lead someone to Jesus Christ. And boy, what a great day it's been, just seeing the Lord do something mighty here. And I'm excited about what God is doing. Well, I want to talk to you this morning, if I can, just briefly about you are being watched. In 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 8, the scripture says, "And he took Agag, the king of Amalekites, alive and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword." Now God told Saul to go to war against the Amalekites and destroy all that they have and spare them not. Now the Amalekites attacked Israel. They traveled from Egypt to the promised land. And God pronounced judgment against this nation. Now when Saul went to war against the Amalekites, the scriptures show that he spared the king and the people, spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fatlings and the lambs and all that was good. Now I want you to notice that Saul made the first move to disobey God, and the people followed his example. So the people saw Saul spare Agag the king, felt it was right to spare the best of the flock, because that is what their leader did. Now, Saul's disobedience to God's command watered down God's command to the people. They justified their disobedience because their leader showed them how to compromise. Now, my friend, leaders do affect their followers for good or bad. And I know yesterday we talked about blaming on the rebel. Now, let's go to the other side. It's critical for a leader to live a holy life because they're often the measuring stick of right and wrong to their followers. If leaders do right, the followers will often follow their example. You see, you are being watched as a leader. And every little move a leader makes for wrong is magnified in the eyes of the follower. And they use your wrong as their justification and excuse for doing wrong themselves. Now, had Saul been God, the people likely would not have saved the best of the flock. The fact that you're being watched so closely as a leader should encourage you to be careful about your actions in life. Now, pastor, you do affect your church. A pastor that's on fire for God often leads the people to be on fire for God. You can expect your church to do what you want them to do if you're not doing it. Now, certainly there are churches where the pastor is spinning his wheels in his attempt to get the church to follow him, but most of the time, people see the lack of energy from the pulpit or from the pastor to do right. What the pastor emphasizes with his life is often followed by the people. If the pastor emphasizes excuses as to why soul winning doesn't work, you know what? It's going to move the people to stop being soul winners. As a pastor, you cannot quote compromises and not expect your people not to follow the compromising ways. Followers are not dumb. They know when you are following the wrong people, and they will follow your example. Mom and dad, your actions do affect your children. Every little compromise you make as a parent will be done in excess by your children when they become adults. For parents to stay in a church that compromises is to tell your children that what the church is doing, it's okay to tolerate. Now, mom and dad, if you're in a church that is compromised, you'd be wise to get out of that church and move to a church that's doing right. You see, many parents have excused compromise as semantics, only to lose their children to the world once they become adults. Compromise is not semantics, it is compromise. To tolerate compromise to any degree tells your children that what you're teaching them is opinion and not scripture. Now, my friend, your actions speak loudly to your followers. When the leader does wrong in moderation, the follower will often do in excess. Whether you're a pastor, a ministry leader, a parent, or any kind of leader, spiritual leader for that, if you don't want those you lead compromise, you'd be wise never to tolerate it to any degree, because you are being watched and followed. If you want your followers to give them the best to do right, listen to me, you've got to lead by example. I'm telling you, if I do wrong, I will lead others into wrong. Doesn't matter. You say, well, they should be following God. I agree, but not. So my best way to keep people doing right is for me to do right. If I want people to be soul winners, I need to be a soul winner. If I want people to pray, I need to pray. If I want people to read the Bible, I need to read the Bible. If I want people to stand for truth, I ought to stand for truth. You listen to me, your followers are following what you do. Now, that I can't guarantee they're going to always do what I tell them to do. But I give it the best chance. I get the best example I can if I just by example lead as a leader. My friend, you are being watched. Always, the government's watching me. How about this? Your children are watching you. Your ministry, those you lead the ministry are watching. The world is watching you. Neighbors are watching you. The lost are watching you. Your work partners are watching you. What you do will determine whether they really want to follow you and go down the right path or not. You do the wrong things, you will lead others to do more than you ever will. And the heartache it brings. That's why it's so critical. Every leader does right all the time. Why? So that we can motivate and lead our followers to do what is right. Well, my friend, I hope this is a help to you. Now, let's remember today, hey, let's be good to everyone. Everyone's having a tough time. Have a great day, my friend.